I've worked more than I ever did when I worked for other companies. I used to work for St. Jude, a hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. Loved the company, but I realized as time went on that it wasn't where I was meant to live out my gifts and my purpose anymore. So when I dove into content creating, blogging full time, I slowly began to learn that, wow, I'm going to have to dedicate a lot of hours to this business to really make it grow and work. I'm talking, like, let's say I worked a 40-hour week, 60 hours more. I mean, and I'm not saying you should never take breaks. I think that's another common misconception, is that many women entrepreneurs, they just go and do not practice good self-care, which if you are not fueling and taking care of yourself, you will never be able to take care of your audience and your customers and your clients. So there is definitely some give and take there, that you should, yes, take breaks and do stuff outside of just your business, but at the same time you need to be willing to put in the effort and consistency and just showing up for your audience, no matter how big or small they are. Because if this is your first business and you're still learning, going through the learning curves, then you're still learning what it means to connect with your audience, to sell who you truly are, to sell who you truly are without seeming too salesy, which I also think is a fear that many people have. It's just based off fear and being insecure, is that they're worried they sound too salesy, when all you're doing here is connecting with your audience and having a relationship when you are marketing your business as an entrepreneur. And it's very easy to be concerned about what the other person will think, because it's such a personal thing. It's your own business. So you do not want to come across in the wrong way or say something that is going to potentially be taken the wrong way. So being very mindful of what you say and share is very crucial. And gosh, I feel like I'm just kind of diving into all my tips and common misconceptions at once. So let's break it down. So the first misconception I shared was that you will have more time on your hands to just kind of do whatever. And I do think that eventually you could get to a point where you are truly freed up with your time, and that your business is kind of cranking out and running itself in a lot of ways. And you can spend more time doing other things, more hobbies, and less on the business. But if you are so quick to say, okay, cool, it's up and running, now I can do other things, you obviously don't care enough about your business to even keep it running. So if you are just going into it hoping to then turn around and sell it and be done with it, then you're probably not going to have a very long-standing, successful business. So understanding from the beginning that it's going to take a lot of work and effort is very important, and to not fall into the trap of thinking, oh, an entrepreneur means I can just kind of do what I want and not have any accountability, and that's not true. The second misconception that I just shared was this fear of being too salesy, and if you share your product and service to an audience member, someone that you know needs your service, that you could truly help, you are going to come off as salesy. And I believe it's very important, like I said, to remember this is relationship building, and that being an entrepreneur and starting a startup is a big deal. It's a lot of sweat effort. It's a lot of just time and just not giving up and being consistent. And as time continues, your audience will recognize that, and the right people will stick around. So do not have a fear of being proud of what you've produced and what you are going to sell to help your audience, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're helping them. And being kind and considerate and focusing on the relationship at the core root is going to really set you up for success as an entrepreneur with whatever business you are creating. So I think those are the two that I kind of molded together at that beginning there. But another common misconception that I experienced myself, because I was thinking this at the beginning, was that everyone's going to want to talk about my business. That in any conversation when I was with friends and family, I wanted to talk about it, because it was such a new experience I never experienced, and not a lot of people in my life really were doing it or had done it. So it was hard to really relate, which definitely felt lonely for a while, and still does sometimes. But it's amazing the community of women that you can connect with that are right where you're at, that you could talk to and grow with. And that's been just the biggest blessing, honestly, with this with developing Chica Confident for me personally is the connections and the networking online that I've experienced that have led to even in-person meetups and connecting. So it's important to remember that, take for example, if you have someone who is in your life that works for a corporate company, which is totally fine, and they're content with their role in a company working for someone else, it's very likely you do not constantly hear them talking about their business and what's going on. Obviously, they're going to share something because it's a big part of their life, but you hear a lot of entrepreneurs wanting to talk about their business because it's so closely connected to them. It's a startup, it's an extension of who they are, and it's a lot of work. And it's important to remember that not everyone's going to understand or want to talk about that 24/7. So being very mindful of how you bring it up, but also being willing to share when you do need just some love and some advice is important. So just remember that just because people don't ask you 24/7 about how your business is going doesn't mean they don't care. It doesn't mean that they're trying to be inconsiderate. It's simply because this is all work and business. So those who truly are going to stick around and support you will stick around no matter what. So remember that as you are developing a startup. The fourth misconception, and one that I still have to combat and struggle with to this day, is that you can just kind of do whatever with your schedule. So there's definitely been times when I've had friends who maybe they had an off day from their business that they work for. They reach out to me and think, okay, I know Morgan's at home doing blogging and content creating, so she can take a little break and come hang out or do whatever. And there are times where I have done that because the schedule that I created allowed for that. But you need to be very, very just drawing a line in the sand very hard and clear from the beginning that your timeline and your schedule is no different than someone who works for a company, because you have to create that schedule and be very strict with it. Your day begins and ends, your work day begins and ends at a certain time, just like someone who works for a corporate company does. But it's very difficult for someone who's not in that role that you are in as an entrepreneur to understand that. So being kind, of course, in the way you present that and say, hey, look, I've already got a very busy timeline today with my work, so how about we move it to tomorrow or the next day? Yes, the beauty in owning your business and being a CEO does allow you the opportunity and the luxury to create your own timeline and go get coffee with that friend when maybe someone who works for a company can't do that because it's not their schedule. It's important to still remember that your business is important, your business is a priority, and that while it's easy for you to just say, all right, fine, it's no big deal, it's easy to then procrastinate what needs to get done in your business and not see as much growth and then get frustrated. So be kind, but let the person know that, hey, I've got a timeline, I can't deviate from that today, but let's meet up maybe in a couple days. That is definitely something that's been a learned skill for me, is being very clear and direct, but also kind in the way that I say, hey, I've got a lot to do today, my business has some deadlines I have to meet, and really setting that line hard to say, hey, this is a business, this is a profession, and this does matter to me. So oftentimes it's not that the person doesn't care or doesn't respect your business, they just do not understand. So let them know, be very clear, and then move forward. So I hope these tips of common misconceptions have been useful for you, and that if you are still kind of learning the ins and outs of entrepreneurship as a woman, be encouraged, you are not alone, and feel empowered that you have this opportunity to build your own foundation and use your unique voice to help someone in particular, because that is such a gift and so much easier to do nowadays than it's ever been. So thanks for stopping by. Definitely drop a comment if you have any questions, any inquiries. I'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Besos.